Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I need to proffer. Can I make a proffer for the record, and then I'll just be gone for the rest of the hearing? I need to proffer this, Your Honor. The point here is that everything that he just said, plus the point is that already you get the LCB arguing jurisdiction. I am 2 for 2. Both those cases that are mentioned, Levi Lyon and Central Raining Hall, both involve subject matter jurisdiction where the LCB was acting as a super legislature, okay? And they're making up rules and policies that they don't have authority for, and each time when I called them on it, both times through licensed counsel, I gave them all the information, those cases got dismissed, and that's a fact. And in this instance, the legislature has not given them the right to super legislate information that's not part of the statute or of the WAC. The WAC doesn't say, oh, the LCB can pick and choose and fight this. It doesn't say that. Especially when you have somebody with my background as a former AAG and a lifetime friend now. It's ridiculous. All right, that was my proffer.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Third, LCB is attempting to drive Raccoon Hill LLC into more financial hardship by hiring an expensive licensed local attorney. They did the same thing on the cannabis side, as noted by the press release by the Sun Growers Association. The Washington State Liquor Cannabis Board statements the comments must include legalese and verified data to be considered valid through further underscores the agency's struggle to identify, acknowledge the systematic prejudice and racism that permeates its people, procedures, and practices. Disadvantaged groups seldom graduate from law school and are often economically disadvantaged in such a way that hiring an attorney and economist to provide such content is not feasible. It's disgraceful that the Washington State Liquor Cannabis Board cannot acknowledge the racism that permeates in their existing rules, proposed rules, and treatment of comments received from disadvantaged stakeholders. Four.
So the purpose, this is a motion hearing to address the motion filed by Mr. Sekulich on behalf of Raccoon Hill LLC. It's entitled Objection to Scheduling Order and Request for Christopher King to represent. And so I will hear oral argument from Mr. Sekulich, a response from Mr. Miller if he wishes, and if he does so, a reply from Mr. Sekulich. So Mr. Sekulich, go ahead, sir.
Give me just 1 second here. Yes, and Jim, you have the writings that we talked about this morning, the last email I sent you, so you can proceed on that basis. I think I should be allowed to speak as well, even though I'm not authorized to represent at this point. I think it was denied due process for me as the requested representative not to be able to speak at a minimum.
I appreciate that, Mr. King, but your request is denied because your opportunity to speak is dependent upon your being appointed as representative. But as any decision I make, that's preserved for future appeal should Raccoon Hill LLC not prevail in this matter, and believes that is one of not many reasons that it did not. Mr. Sekulich, go ahead with your argument, sir.
Yes, first of all, Christopher King is a member of our Raccoon Hill LLC. And as a member of our Raccoon Hill LLC, he should be able to represent us at this hearing. And if he's unable as a member of Raccoon Hill LLC, who should be able to represent us? That's all I have said this time, sir.
Okay, then I'm going to rely on your written argument. But I do want to ask a couple of questions to make sure I understand it. And then I will still allow Mr. Miller to respond to that if he wishes. And if he does, you'll be allowed to reply to him. But I understand exactly, of course, what the argument is regarding Mr. King as a member of seeking to be the active representative in this matter. And I understand the argument about alleged LCB bad faith being the cause of the licensee's failure to timely appeal the AVN, the underlying AVN. That is to say, not the underlying one, but the one that predicated the present AVN. But I want to make sure I understand what you mean by subject matter jurisdiction and standing. Can you elaborate on that? Otherwise, I'll rely on the written.
You're kind of fuzzy. I didn't understand your question.
I am so sorry. If that continues, then I will disconnect and call back in so that you can hear me clearly. I said your motion seems to address three issues, and the issue about alleged bad faith of LCB and its impact on matters, I understand, and the argument, which is the thrust, the primary argument that Mr. King should be allowed to represent Raccoon Hill, I understand that argument. What I want to make sure is what your argument is about regarding subject matter jurisdiction and standing. If you would explain what that argument is about, that would be helpful.
Is Mr. King allowed to speak on that?
No, sir.
No, I'm going to offer a proffer for the record, but that is not officially in the record, Jim, so you can just discuss what we discussed about that issue. I know, see, this is the whole point of having a representative. He gets uptight. That's why he needs a representative.
Only Mr. Sekulich can speak, but certainly if you've put words into his mouth in advance of the motion, those are the ones he can use. So, Mr. Sekulich...
He just gets uptight. That's the whole point. He has everything written out. He just gets uptight, guys.
Okay, well, I don't care if it was written by you and he's reading it. Because what you do on your time, the two of you, is just fine. So if there's something that you've written that Mr. Sekulich wants to read, I would be happy to hear it, Mr. Sekulich.
Okay, Jim, listen, first of all, stand on the pleadings. As far as the jurisdiction element, just stand on the pleadings. But you have the document that we worked on that I sent you. You need to read it in the record. First of all, I am not... Mr. King is not just a hired temporary gun. He is part of our LLC as a member of Raccoon Hill LLC. I have known Mr. King for some extended time. I became familiar with him after reading many articles that he had written over the years. Second, what better person to assist someone who has successfully litigated cases as an AAG and a citizen as a licensed attorney. Third, LCB is attempting to drive Raccoon Hill LLC into more financial hardship by hiring an expensive licensed local attorney. They did the same thing on the cannabis side, as noted by the press release by the Sun Growers Association. The Washington State Liquor Cannabis Board statements the comments must include legalese and verified data to be considered valid through further underscores the agency's struggle to identify, acknowledge the systematic prejudice and racism that permeates its people, procedures, and practices. Disadvantaged groups seldom graduate from law school and are often economically disadvantaged in such a way that hiring an attorney and economist to provide such content is not feasible. It's disgraceful that the Washington State Liquor Cannabis Board cannot acknowledge the racism that permeates in their existing rules, proposed rules, and treatment of comments received from disadvantaged stakeholders. Fourth, I am not part of any sovereign movement that the LCB clearly disdains seems in its correspondence file on this case. I am a level-headed professional who will use existing law to demonstrate our arguments. Fifth, in summation, that the Liquor Control Board really hates is my efficiency against them, which will only continue to grow as I am Christopher King, 2 for 2, and now we know that the cannabis side that we just discovered today, the FDA has jurisdiction over this. The FDA policy interests protecting the public from harmful products. There is significant interest in the development of these. Jim, that's good.
Have you completed?
That's good. That's fair enough.
Mr. Sekulich, about the last two sentences you read cut out. There was a little bit of I lost your voice for a couple of sentences. Could you read the last two sentences or the last paragraph so I make sure I have everything in the record?
Fifth, the summation that the LCB really hates is my efficiency, Chris King, against them, which will only continue to grow. Chris is 2 for 2, and now that we know on the cannabis side that we just discovered today, the FDA has jurisdiction over cannabis as the first listed priority is. I believe that's what you were referring to.
It was, and thank you.
And well, you have to read what the thing is below, Jim, the FDA policy. You have to read that part. You have to read the big paragraph.
The FDA policy interests. The FDA policy interests protecting the public from harmful products.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I need to proffer. Can I make a proffer for the record, and then I'll just be gone for the rest of the hearing? I need to proffer this, Your Honor. The point here is that everything that he just said, plus the point is that already at the LCB, arguing jurisdiction, I am 2 for 2. Both those cases that are mentioned, Levi Lyon and Cinto Rainey Hall, both involve subject matter jurisdiction where the LCB was acting as a super legislature, okay? And they're making up rules and policies that they don't have authority for, and each time when I called them on it, both times through licensed counsel, I gave them all the information, those cases got dismissed, and that's a fact. And in this instance, the legislature has not given them the right to super legislate information that's not part of the statute or of the WAC. The WAC doesn't say, oh, the LCB can pick and choose and fight this. It doesn't say that. Especially when you have somebody with my background as a former AAG and a lifetime friend now. It's ridiculous. All right, that was my proffer.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Miller, would you like to respond to Mr. Sekulich's argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So briefly, I just wanted to touch on the lateness of the objection to the issue statement. The pre-hearing conference order was issued on August 30th. The window for a timely objection therefore closed on September 9th. The licensee late objection to the issue statement should be overturned or overruled. And on to the legal representation issue. Christopher King is not qualified to represent Raccoon Hill LLC in this proceeding. Mr. King is not an attorney. He is not actively licensed to practice in this state or any other state. The Liquor and Cannabis Board adopted WAC 314-4220 to govern when non-attorney representatives can act as legal representatives for a business entity. It lists roles with a strong connection to the licensed business, either a business's full-time employees, a partnership's partners, the authorized managers for business, or any other bona fide officer. Here, Mr. King is not alleged to be a full-time employee. He is not alleged to be a manager. And for the reasons described in our written response, Mr. King is not a bona fide officer of the LLC either. The connection, Mr. King's appointment as a member is de debatable at this point, but his membership status does not confer status as a bona fide officer. Bona fide officers are typically exert substantial control in the daily management of the business or direct activities and affairs of the entity. Mr. King appears to have no authority over the LLC or management over the LLC's affairs. He should not be allowed to act as the legal representative in lieu of Mr. Sekulich. Thank you, Your Honor. I waive the rest of my time.
What was that last sentence? You do what?
I have one additional brief proffer, if I may.
Wait.
I'm not just representing them on this. I have represented bar owners too, by the way. Okay, in the past, I've represented bar owners, and I am part of this LLC in its perpetuity. Period. So I'm not here for this hearing on specific. I'm here for a lifetime. And that implies a constant managerial position as an advisor within this LLC.
Mr. Miller, I didn't hear your last sentence. Did you say something about reserving something?
No, I yield the rest of my time.
Okay. That's fine. For some reason, somebody's trying to join the call, and I don't know who.
Oh, there was a call from Zippy Fiber, Your Honor. I let it go. They're checking the fiber at the house, so I let that go.
All right. So I'll decline it, so it doesn't keep buzzing. All right. So, Mr. Sekulich.
No, I did. It's down. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, it's handled. Mr. Sekulich, you're entitled to a brief reply. Would you like to make one?
Yes, I would.
Go ahead.
Mr. King is a member of Raccoon Hill LLC. He has the ability to help manage as we see fit and he sees fit, and is part of our team of Raccoon Hill LLC doing business as Doc's Riverside Tap House. Not only that, he's a personal friend of mine and my family's, and he should absolutely have the authority to represent us in this hearing and any further hearings going ahead. This is an administrative court, and it's very key that, if we eliminate a Raccoon Hill LLC member to represent us, then who on earth can? As our statement says, they're trying to force us into hiring a legal team or a lawyer that would financially ruin us. And Mr. King is a member of our Raccoon Hill LLC and should absolutely have the right to represent us in this hearing and any hearing hereafter. He's a member in good standing, and all the paperwork is processed through the state, and there is no question that he is, as a member, has the right to represent us. And to say otherwise just is not right or true. With all due respect, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Sekulich. Hey, gentlemen, I'm going to take this matter under advisement. I don't plan to spend days dealing with it because I think you all deserve an answer quickly. But I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with my answer, and that means I want to take the time to think about it. And then also take the time to explain it well so everyone understands it. So I'll issue an order in due course. In the meantime, of course, until if and when I grant the motion, Mr. King cannot act as a representative, but that doesn't mean that he can't assist Mr. Sekulich as much as the two of them want him to outside the hearings and such. And I say that in particular because I don't have a case schedule in front of me at the moment, but you filed motions for summary judgment and responses are probably due soon, and I don't think you want to delay your response while you're waiting. So I felt it was important to make that announcement up front. Anyway, I should have an answer out though within a week. But like I say, with that other deadline pending, you need to know now that Mr. King wouldn't be able to sign any such pleadings. There's absolutely no reason why he can't assist Mr. Sekulich if that's Mr. Sekulich's desire, and I presume it is. Are there any questions or other concerns that we need to address before I close the hearing?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I would encourage you to check the Office of Licensing to see that, in fact, Christopher King is on our documents there. In any other state agency, you'll find that, in fact, he is there. And based on that information, I pray that you let Mr. King be part of our Raccoon Hill hearing team and help us on our future hearings and as we move forward here. With that, Your Honor, that's all I have to say. Please check those state filings, and they are real, and we can move ahead from here, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sekulich. Mr. Sekulich, I cannot do any factual research in this or any other case. So you submitted, as I recall, a Secretary of State form, and whatever the parties have submitted, I will look at and as thoroughly as I believe is necessary to. But I won't be doing any. The only research that I can do is legal research. I can research the law, but I cannot research the facts.
Okay.
And that benefits both parties, knowing exactly what it is I'm limiting myself to. And as I said before, in the meantime, Mr. King can certainly help you construct any documents that you think you're going to file, including your response if you wish to respond to the state's motion for summary judgment. What he can't do until, if and when I say otherwise, is act as your representative at a hearing. So, any other questions or concerns, Mr. Sekulich?
No, sir.
Mr. Miller.
No, Your Honor.
Then I want to thank everyone for their attendance today, and this hearing is concluded. Thank you and good day. Bye.